Conversation going with retired Air Force Special Operations Commander and national security expert Glenn Ignacio, and then also former Deputy National Security Advisor Victoria Coates. She's also the Vice President of the Davis Institute for National Security and Foreign Policy. Thank you both for being here on this Sunday. A lot to unpack from yesterday's insurrection. Glenn, your initial take on the fact that this threat even manifested itself against Putin.
Yes, I mean, the Wagner Group has been complaining for a while for lack of ammunition, supplies, and support. They basically said that they were attacked by the Russian military, but there's been a divide. I mean, they've actually been the strong opponent against Ukraine in the battle zone. But let's think of the dynamics. They are actually able to move into Russia because they look like the Russian military. They're embraced. They took the command and control center that takes care of Ukraine. They pressed forward another 500 miles close to Moscow. 6 helicopters were shot down and a command and control. They've lost 20 crewmen, Russians did. Getting all the way to Moscow would be a heck of a battle for them, but the whole idea that they were able to maintain a good track at a good speed, unfettered, shows that the Wagner Group really had an objective to get to Moscow and at least wake up the government versus the defense minister that they just can't stand.
Victoria, Prigozhin said that his men were just miles away, just a couple of hours drive, really, from Moscow. Then he turned them around, he said, to avoid shedding Russian blood. If he didn't think he really could take this all the way, why do this?
Tom, good to be with you. And that is one of many things that are making me go, this morning about this situation. As Glenn was just saying, the speed with which Prigozhin was able to take Rostov-on-Don, and then the lack of bloodshed that took place in Russia. If you don't have sort of a pile of dead bodies, things cannot be what they seem. And I was very struck by something Shelby said. This move of Prigozhin, the proposed move to Belarus, is that actually a means to get a bunch of Wagner folks up in Belarus in a different location without arousing suspicions that Russia's planning a different sort of attack? Remember, Lukashenko is not an independent actor. He's completely dependent on Putin. So he's not in any way an honest broker here. He's doing what Putin wants him to do. Yeah,
so this is the type of thing you're saying, that this could be kind of a smokescreen for repositioning a significant amount of forces inside Belarus to affect maybe a northern front advance against Ukraine. Glenn, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, Victoria's got great points. And the one thing that I think about, this is on my mind, is, the propaganda has always been pushed and is controlled by Putin that Russia is fighting NATO and the Western, states, the United States in this battle. That's not just against Ukraine anymore. He's been pushing that. Now you have a very vocal, a very visible Wagner Group moving in, showing a shattering or a fracture between what is really happening in Ukraine. So it's for the first time you're really seeing some action that has sort of split the rhetoric. If the Wagner Group really stayed quiet, and this could have looked like a false flag, like Ukraine has pushed into Russia, that could have been played beautifully. The idea that it wasn't makes me think that there's definitely a fracture going on within the government. And this may have been a way for Prigozhin to get actually Putin's attention. Whatever it is, Putin has definitely been impacted. And so that's why we really have to watch what plays out. But this was definitely not good for Putin's position within the country.
Victoria, you've sat in that Situation Room in the White House. You've been part of decision-making, high-level decision-making on U.S. policy. What does the United States need to do now as you see this fracture, these fissures and really chaos within the Russian military? How does the United States and NATO capitalize on that vis-a-vis Ukraine?
Yeah, I agree that this is definitely not, in the grand scheme of things, good for Putin, because the perception is within Russia that something has happened. He may have blinked. And you go back to the old saying that dictators stay in power by riding on a tiger. But then if you ever have to get off, the tiger's going to turn on you. So that might be a little bit of what we're seeing here. And I think for the United States and for policymakers, the key is not to get overly focused on Ukraine. Obviously, it is important. It is a central front. But Wagner is active in Syria, in Libya, in Mali, in Sudan, in all sorts of trouble spots around the globe. And if Wagner is in any way disrupted, this could be a real opportunity for the United States and our regional allies who are also trying to make some sense out of those problem sets to make some advances and reduce the amount of trouble that Russia can create.
That's a fantastic point. All right, we're going to have to leave it there. Glenn Ignazio and Victoria Coates, appreciate you both. Thank you for being here on Sunday.
Thanks, Tom.